Greetings, everyone. Lost here. It's been a minute since I've done one of these. I'm a bit overdue, you could say, depending on how you look at it. I've been making videos for quite a while now, and the longer I do so, the more I find that I do not prefer to commentate. I have my reasons for that, but who really wants to hear what I have to say? Well, sure, I've got a core of loyal followers, and I appreciate that. But when it really comes down to it, in the wider world, who really cares what I have to say? Could be that's just me, but I just find that talk is cheap. I usually let my videos do the talking, and the whole "a picture is worth 1,000 words" quote. I find that rings very true more as time goes on. And I prefer the other style of video making anyway, so that's what you'll get mostly if you hang around. Well, for those of you that do remain, though, eventually you will get a video like this, because I know that there are some of you, maybe more than I realize, that do prefer to hear the voice of lost in a juicered wilderness of pain. I see a lot of new up-and-coming channels. They'll talk your ear off for 15, 20, half-hour, better part of an hour, haranguing you with a lecture style of a video, or just engaging in mental masturbation with a guest for the better part of an hour. And it's like, I get it if that's your preferred style. If you like to talk, great. If you're good at talking, even better, right? That's a whole other thing, whether one is good at commentating or not, and whether they should bother to do it or not. That's a subject for another video. The point being, goes back to what I said at the top of the video, most people don't care what you have to say. They just don't. They're too busy with their lives and personal things and other pursuits to carve the time out of their day to hear what you or I have to say. So for those of you out there who are trying to get into this or have been in this for a bit and are talking people to death, calm down. You're not that important. But anyway, that's not what I want to talk about in this video today. I've noticed something that's been talked about before, but not very much, and it needs to be talked about some more, and that's the topic of minimalism. What is minimalism? For those of you who can't discern what it is just from its name, minimalism is simply the adoption of having less stuff, sometimes in pursuit of having a simpler life. Fairly innocent enough, right? Well, yes and no. Years ago, minimalism started being pushed by the various shills and people of certain movements, particularly the let's get everyone to live in their car movement. And that is a movement, an agenda, you could say. Now, for example, you have the professional who's successful with a house and maybe some acreage and the means to support themselves with food and such for a crisis, should it emerge. And for whatever reason, they decide to get rid of that and embrace life on the road. Maybe it's adventure, maybe they've fallen on hard times and need to live in their car. You know, many people start living on the road because of that. Become nomadic, van camp, car camp, what have you. But in doing so, in giving up your castle or losing it, for those unfortunate souls who have, giving up your stuff, you are becoming, by default, more vulnerable. And if you're more vulnerable, well, you have fewer capabilities. And with fewer capabilities, you're easier to control. Now, like many things, this is a multi-pronged agenda. And it sort of goes hand in hand with the topic another YouTuber has brought up. One of my favorite channels, that's Deutsch Videos. For those of you who are, the few of you who are sub to me yet somehow are not sub to or familiar with him, go check out his channel. The content is always worth watching, and you will most likely learn something. So Deutsch Videos recently put out a video in which he touched on the subject of the metaverse and or VR and tiny homes, and the fact that it's being pushed at the same time. No coincidence of that, of course. What do all of these things have in common? The minimalism, the living out of your car movement, tiny homes, and the metaverse. Well, the trend is smaller. The trend is smaller, less. Imagine the year is 2030. A young man wakes up, or woman, whatever, and they get dressed, they eat their daily ration of bug protein, and then they strap on their headset, the VR, and that's where they spend the rest of their day. And one day they decide, well, maybe I want to go outside. And they try to leave their pod. But they can't. They get an alarm. A notice that says, you can't leave yet. You haven't generated enough power or done enough for the machine yet. I want to go outside and explore. Oh, no, you don't need to. You're in the VR most of the day. Why do you need to do that? You have all the diversions you want, says the AI voice. I want to eat some meat. Well, no, you don't need that. You don't need that much protein because you're in the VR all day. You see where this is going. You live in a smaller space, whether it be a tiny house, a vehicle, coffin apartment, what have you. And everything you could ever want or need is being supplied through VR. Eventually, they want everyone living in their coffin apartments. Or let's take it a step further. In their pod, hooked up into the Neuralink, feeding the machine. just like the Matrix. That's probably the most accurate and prophetic thing that movie showed. Literally being part of the machine. That's what they want. They want you to give up all your stuff so you have fewer capabilities, so you're more vulnerable, so that you can be controlled and plugged in. That is the end goal of the powers that should not be. It becomes very obvious when you look at all of these agendas as a whole. And further, adding on to another topic Deutsche Videos recently covered, and that's population. I agree. There's no way that there are 8 billion plus people living in this realm at the moment. You know, you drive along like I am right now, and there's a lot of nobody home. There's a lot of empty spaces. There's a lot of wilderness. And that's just in this country. Yeah, I'm kind of driving through a semi-residential section at the moment, but the point remains. You know, you think, even if there were, let's say, 1 billion people on the planet, in this realm, what have you, there's no way you could account for everybody accurately all the time, even with something like the census. You know, it'd be like trying to herd cats or count a school of fish. You just can't do it. You know, the population thing, that's to get people to think that there are too many of us, so we need to embrace a more austere lifestyle. Again, having less, giving up your stuff. You will own nothing and be happy. Get it? You will be hooked up to the machine, own nothing, and be happy. That's what they want. I, for one, don't plan on giving that to them. I will not get with the program that they are pushing. I will die resisting in whatever capacity I can. I'll be a thorn in their side until the end. And I know I'm not alone. Some of you may like it, though. Some of you may go quietly and enjoy being plugged in. And if that's what you want, well, go for it. Hang tight. You're about to have it in full. But before you submit to that, ask yourself this. 10 years from now, when you're plugged in and you can no longer go outside or move where you wanted to or do as you wanted, ask yourself, is a lifetime of comfortable slavery worth more than one day of total, true freedom? Thanks for listening to my ramble. Till next time.